Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
1 2.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2.
All right. Welcome to Leave Room for Milk, the podcast that
You got this.
This is what I didn't want to happen.
Documentary. Why did I say that like my wife?
Welcome to Leave Room for Milk, the podcast centered around life, the creative journey, and a good cup of coffee.
Today we had on Justin Torrence, who's a good friend of ours, and he's also a stuntman, producer, and lead actor in the film Heart of Man, which is on Netflix right now. It is a narrative-based documentary. It's really great. You should check it out. But we had him on the show to basically talk about his acting process, why he got into it in the first place, Meisner method, and how he booked that lead role in Heart of Man.
Yeah, and also just wanted to take a minute to just say, please, 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 from the bottom of our hearts, just if you can, like this podcast on iTunes. We're also on Spotify, if you could follow us there, as well as this channel, SoundCloud, on all the different platforms. Your support would just mean so much as we're trying to grow this and get it out there for more people to watch. We're in the process right now of kind of trying to restructure the podcast to make it more valuable for you guys. So if there's any input that you would love to add, please leave a comment below and we will read that and definitely try to implement that moving forward. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the episode and we'll see you next week.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
I'm noticing your guys' facial hair game is very strong.
Yeah,
you got the sexy patchy stash thing going on. You look like an artist, like a little beatnik from Paris somewhere, just roaming around doing cool stuff. And then we got the man beard.
Straight up lumberjack. Yeah,
straight up lumberjack.
Probably a little too intense right now.
No, it's not. It's perfect. Well, it's actually well formed because sometimes they get longer. People let them fan out. And it's kind of
I just did
like
some
a broom.
I did some wax a few minutes ago to kind of shape it up a little bit.
Wax?
I did a little wax. Yeah.
Dude, the manscaping game is strong nowadays.
No, it is.
Jesse's like manscaping. I don't mean like full body. I'm not talking about doing designs or anything.
No,
I was in Target, which to answer your previous question, which wasn't on air, my pants and shirt are both from Target.
Yeah, Target.
But I was in there recently and like back by the cosmetic and shampoo and toothpaste and all this. You guys been in there recently?
Yeah,
they got
my
a
wife
whole
goes in there every
section,
weekend.
dude. It's like a Victoria's Secret for men, but like it's just like this fancy, sexy layout for like beard oil.
No, see, I haven't seen that.
Shaving stuff, and it's like all these companies, all this cool stuff, and I was like, "There's too much cool stuff here. I'm leaving."
Brittany's trying to get me to put oil in my beard.
I got you.
In your beard.
you.
Do you
So,
have something?
quick little
You
thing.
don't need oil in your beard. That would just be an oily face.
Well, little thing.
Like to help grow in the patches. And...
Look,
Oh, okay.
I
Does that
have
work?
my
I have no
own
idea.
proprietary beard oil.
Okay. What is it?
My mom makes it for me.
Maybe
Really?
they can sponsor
But she's
us.
got a business doing like crafty things or whatever. So she was experimenting with beard oil, and it turns out like it's the best stuff in the world.
Does
so
it make
like,
your hair grow?
yeah, you tell me.
You've been using it?
I'm gonna rub that on my forehead, man.
No, I mean, it smells amazing. It's like it.
Oh, it's like essential oils and stuff.
She does it, for a living or whatever. She usually makes like shampoos and lotions and deodorants,
Really?
but
It's like all natural.
yeah, it's all natural.
Wow.
Like a lot of her stuff's made with like
Dude, now's the time to plug for your mom.
Yeah,
and then charge
so,
her for advertising.
yeah.
Mom, sponsor us.
Barb's Cottage Creations.
Come on, Barb.
Yeah, come on, Barb. But anyways, yeah. So I'm totally thinking about like stealing her recipe, and making my own beard brand oil, and
That's a good idea.
doing a nice little Facebook marketing campaign. And
But you don't have to steal it. You could just like keep her in a sweatshop working for you. Just do the marketing and split 50-50.
exactly, or at least make her think that.
Yeah. Sorry,
Just
Barb.
kidding, Mom.
That's how the podcast blows up. It's sponsoring like beard oil.
Beard oil.
You get all sorts
This
of different
episode
audience
sponsored by
members.
Barb's Cottage Creations,
Which is
Anyways.
also good for the women, I'm sure. As well.
yeah. She's got tons of stuff for the women. So
Just helping you out, Barb.
Yeah.
I expect some free beard oil for that promotion.
Barb.
yeah. So anyways, man, like again, thanks for coming on. And so
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
yeah. So
pleasure.
what?
My pleasure.
What's kind of the last thing that you have recently worked on?
The last thing I recently worked on, I got to work on the TV show called Legacies. It's part of the Vampire Diaries kind of storyline. I think it's the third show that's an offshoot of that. It's in its actually I was in the last episode of the first season. I think they're expecting to pick up another season, but who knows,
Cool.
So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Small role, man. Just some kind of security guy. Say a couple lines, hit the ground a little bit. I do my own stunts, so
nice.
that helps me sometimes. Right? I'm in a
Actor,
room.
stuntman. What was the third one? What was the trifecta?
Actor, stuntman, producer.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a good trifecta.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet because like in the audition room for the callback, I'm sitting there and it's like one or two other guys were like actors, but I think I was probably the most like I'm an actor kind of guy. The other guys kind of dabble in acting, but they do stunts. So when I go in and I have a stunt reel and I say, look, I've done on camera stunt work before, and like, oh, and you're an actor, like an actual actor
By trade, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, so that helps me out,
Absolutely.
And other people can do that too, so I'm not like the only guy, but it definitely helps.
Yeah. Tom Cruise does his own things, right?
Tom Cruise, man, he does. Dude,
that loser.
Tom Cruise, haters gonna hate, man, but I got a lot of respect for that guy. Every movie he runs so hard, even if just for that, his running in every film he ever does.
I know, he's so intense.
He's so in every moment. He's so alive, and then he does his own stunts. He's a badass.
I hear you. So where did it start for you? Like as far as just in general, like where did the love for or even wanting to pursue acting begin?
I'm a little distracted because it's like from here it looks like you're fully just like arm around Jesse.
Well,
just like it looks like I'm on like a third wheel on a date.
You kind of are.
Well, so we're switching up some things with we used to have 4 cameras and one on him, one on me.
We are pretty close.
I'm not hating on the setup. I'm just saying
he told me he was going to be. Did you heard him say he was going to be on the edge?
My leg is off the edge. It's okay.
We're literally almost touching.
We're close,
now I feel
physically, emotionally. Don't worry about it.
We've spent a lot of time together in the last few days. So.
There's a guest. There's a guest from back there.
Anyways,
what was the question? What was the question?
Yeah, so how did you get started? Like, where did your passion for like wanting to even pursue this begin?
I don't remember everything. I just know that since I was young, I always wanted to be an actor. I think it just looked like fun, but I think one of the things that really like made me want to do like I wanted to be an action star, seeing like Jean-Claude Van Damme films when I was a kid. Like this is incredible. I would love to do that, to be the hero or the tough guy. I want to do those fights. I want to be that actor, be that guy. And it wasn't just that, right? I like doing comedy and stuff like that too. But I think since I was young, just the idea of like I felt like I could do it. I'm like, I think I could do that. I think I could be in front of an audience or in front of a camera and make people laugh or put on a good show. And it just felt like something that was just super exciting to me. So.
And how did it start? Like, what was your first like acting gig?
Dude, my first acting, I didn't, I did like the occasional like church play or whatever, and I think I was cast as apparition number 2 in Macbeth at a local theater when I was like, 11 or 12 or something like that. So that was like, I literally hadn't done any acting. And, it's kind of a crazy story and it's out there on another podcast I did recently actually. But, like this whole like miraculous series of events that led me, into acting. I actually had my first acting class on my 30th birthday in Hawaii. I was just in this transition in life and was just felt like led to go out and start pursuing what I always wanted to do. And a lot of doors open. And so I just kind of kept walking. And literally on my 30th birthday, did my first ever acting class. And Hawaii wasn't a bad spot to do it.
That's kind of perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
What was the landscape like in Hawaii, the filmmaking landscape, when you were there? Dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was on the big island of Hawaii in Kona. And I befriended a guy named David Cunningham, who's a filmmaker. He was in Hollywood in the studio system for probably a decade. Had done films with Fox and Disney and some other ones, and just didn't like the lifestyle there, right? The constant comparison. He has stories, like he'd be like with his family at a pool and people would like find out he's a director and all the stage moms just kind of hound him. And he's like, I'm over it. Don't want my kids to grow up like this. And he grew up in Hawaii, so he wanted to go back there. So I Met him probably 2 weeks into my acting school. He was a guest speaker. It was like a film school and acting school, which is genius, right? Because the filmmakers are like learning how to like shoot, right?
And they need people.
Right, direct, produce,
Exactly,
shoot,
yeah.
edit all their stuff. And then, so, I mean, I think the school that I went to, everybody that does their first film, like they always suck. I mean, if your first film doesn't suck at least a little bit, like there's something wrong with you. So it's like,
Or something right with you.
yeah, there's something right with you. But there was something about this school, like, because I had been to other kind of like premiere days for other film schools, like 4-year film schools, and I'm seeing the stuff they're making, and like the stuff these guys made in 6 months was basically the same quality as this 4-year school. I'm like, what the heck? Well, because we have the camera in our hands all the time, right? Like we shoot within 6 months, maybe like 15 short films, something like that, with the same crew of people. And, sometimes you're a background actor, sometimes you're the lead actor, sometimes you're directing, sometimes you're gripping, whatever. It's a mix, but you learn a bunch and you just keep trying, right? Because that's how you get better. You just do it, see if your ideas work, see how you play on camera, and you just get more comfortable and better along the way. All that to say, I bumped into this guy, Cunningham, at this film school, second week when he was speaking there. And some of the things I really was feeling like really inspired to do, he was in the throes of doing. And at that time, he was working on a big project that would have been the largest independent film ever made. And so I was like, hey, dude, just leaving film school. I really feel like I'm supposed to be working with you. So he's like, dude, when you're done with the 6-month school, why don't you come out and work with us? So I jumped in, and for the next 2 to 3 years, I worked more behind the camera than in front of the camera. I did like some little commercially things here and there, kind of local stuff. But I ended up, starting out like really knowing not much of anything, just sitting in a lot of meetings, development meetings for this big project, and just learning a bunch by just absorption.
Yeah.
And then, just going on set as a PA, learning a bunch, and you just, then a friend's shooting a project and you need an AD. I can do that. I've been around enough now. I kind of know what needs to happen, for smaller stuff. Obviously, when you're doing a big feature, you got to have a little more experience than that. But, but it was just this building and growing thing. So for the next couple of years, then I was working behind the camera in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge benefit. I mean, so I went from like actor, no experience, and then like sitting in meetings, listening, learning, PAing, to eventually we were starting a company that was helping to start new entertainment franchises around the state of Hawaii. And I was the director of outreach and communication, basically traveled to islands, headhunting new projects to bring them into, I guess it was somewhat of a studio model, but the whole pitch was that the people are keeping their IP. We're just an investor and partial owner of the company. So yeah, it's just been a crazy ride,
Were you born and raised in Hawaii, or?
No, wasn't born and raised in Hawaii. Born and raised in Chicago area. Moved to Atlanta area when I was like 11, 12, something like that.
So how'd you get out to Hawaii?
Yeah, that's part of the crazy story. Honestly, like there was a bunch of miraculous leadings, like just honestly feeling like led by God to go out there. And like I said, I did a podcast recently with this guy named Sean Bowles. And I talk about the whole story pretty in depth for about an hour. Cool. So you can check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the podcast called?
I think that one's called Exploring the Prophetic. It's it's a faith-based thing, but it's super fun. And the cool thing about that guy and that podcast is it kind of takes away some of the mystery around, or the language that seems separating for people that maybe don't have a faith context to listen to it. And I think it'll make a little bit more sense than maybe some other people would explain it. So anyway, it's a fun story and a lot of really cool, crazy, miraculous things that happened to get me where I'm at. So
yeah, and so you're obviously now living here, and you're actively pursuing roles, and obviously getting some pretty good things. I know you've got some stuff on Netflix, and the show you just said you were working on, which is really cool. So like to try to make this where it's kind of helpful for the people that may want to get into acting, maybe like, have you ever gone through like stages in your acting career where like maybe you just felt like giving up? Or
weekly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Weekly. Dude, it's so funny. And you guys have probably experienced this, and it's a little bit different, I think, for people that are, directing, producing. Your next project is in your hands.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit different for an actor, which is part of the reason why I started producing, not just because I do enjoy it. in and of itself, but I'm like, I don't want to wait around for a phone call, So, but you guys know what it's like when you finish a show, a project, whatever, you kind of get this post set lull where you're like, will I ever do anything again?
Yeah.
Right? You're like on this high
Yeah.
and everything's great. You're working with your friends
Absolutely.
and you're doing what you love. And all of a sudden it's like, it's over with. And it's like, you just got broken up with by your girlfriend or something like that,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with like pushing through and, maybe dealing with, finances and not, do you do something outside of acting? Is it full time? Do you do other things to supplement income? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, I think for everybody it's different in different seasons of life, because you're not just an actor or filmmaker, you have other stuff going on, family stuff or, there's always other stuff going on that kind of takes your attention away. So I think in general that, I'll be on that high for a couple of days and, then you're still auditioning, you're not hearing back from, any other projects. And, so I think for me, it's all about what else do I have that I love doing that I can invest some of my focus in.
Yeah.
Which some of that is producing. I have a couple of things that I'm working on right now, and it's like anything else. You don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I love the creative process in general. So between auditioning, producing stuff, and aside from that, as far as bread and butter goes, I've been a carpenter for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I get to jump in and do some of that. I work for myself, so it's super flexible. And
that's cool.
I was actually one of your guests that I think maybe will air after this, Matt Finley. Super weird guy. Don't listen to anything he says. Seriously, he's a creep. I'm just kidding.
Never met him.
Matt Finley's right over here.
Matt's over there. A good friend of mine. Met him in Hawaii in the trenches, so he'll have some fun stories. But I was just at his house fixing a storage room in his crawl space like before I came here.
Nice.
Don't even look like it.
Yeah, I got sheetrock falling off.
He went in the bathroom, put some makeup on.
So like, what is it?
If only.
What does it look like for you? Like, what do you do to like mentally prepare yourself before you go into an audition? Is there anything that you do maybe different, or like how does it look for you? Like, how do you psych yourself up before you go into these auditions? And like, what is something that you've found, like for instance, when you auditioned for The Heart of Man, like what is it that got you to that point, and what made you feel like maybe they chose you for that role?
Yeah. I think the big thing is I try not to get psyched out. I try to I want to feel when I go in, like whatever I'm going in to do is the most normal thing I could be doing.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like very grounded with the character, I feel like, while I might not be driving around like acting like the character all the time, maybe like some people would, I do like to stay in a space where it's like, cool, I'm going in, this is what my character's doing, this is what he's like, and that's normal, and I'm just going to go in and just let that happen.
Yeah.
But I think a huge thing for anybody in any kind of creative industry, but specifically for us, specifically if we're kind of blazing our own path, and as an actor, you have to make your own unique creative decisions. If you don't do that, then you're just a copy of somebody else.
Exactly.
So, for me, I have to think about, you have to let your mind run a little bit and let yourself take some risks and do some things that maybe are a little bit edgy. If that's true, right? If it fits, if it's something you actually feel like you want to do, you got to take a risk.
Strip naked.
Just for the hell of it. Yeah, you shouldn't do that kind of stuff. It's kind of stupid, but it's like, think outside the box. I was just saying I did this audition, and who knows if I'll get it? Probably not, because I haven't heard from them yet. But it's a radio DJ, and you're sitting at it. I don't have a desk and all this microphones and stuff.
Exactly. So you kind of.
Yeah, so I make a choice. I'm like, this character, I think he's like a chill kind of playboy kind of guy. So I put my feet up on a table. You can see my boots in the scene, and I'm playing my microphone up here. And that's different. It was like, that made sense to me. So maybe they're going to hate it. I don't care. Like,
they were like, what's this?
I would prefer they not hate it,
Yeah.
but it's different and it's unique and it will stand out and it was true. And if they think it was dumb, I wouldn't agree with that. But if you want something different, obviously, I can make different choices. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's about that creative.
Yeah.
Everybody, you gotta bring your own creativity in anything. Because at the end of the day, right, when you're thinking about, specifically, it's like this with actors, but I'm sure it happens for you guys as, direct, for sure, probably a DP, right? Anybody that's selecting a certain style.
Absolutely.
It's a very stylized person. at the end of the day, if I want to be working all the time as an actor, and if I want to get bigger roles, if I want to be the lead in a big film, in a big feature length film, people need to say we need a Justin Torrance type.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Exactly.
right? People say that about, we need a Morgan Freeman type, or we need a X, Y, or Z type.
Exactly.
Everybody, like, they're looking for uniqueness. That's what
Exactly.
people want to see, is your uniqueness come out. So it's about doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. I
And
mean,
sometimes I do it better than other times. Sometimes I go and I do something vanilla, and most of the time it doesn't work. Every once in a while, you'll get a call back, or you book something with a vanilla performance, and they happen to want vanilla, so that's works out for you.
you're like, whoo.
Yeah, but that's not going to make you better as an artist. Like, you got to dig in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, take a creative approach. I was just telling Jesse the other day that I want to do some acting this year.
Good.
Just randomly, we're in the kitchen.
Just
He was
randomly.
like, I think I want to try acting. I was like,
well, I don't know. I mean, like, nothing crazy, but I would like to just kind of pop up in one of our little films for a second.
Yeah. I
have
know
a
a
little
couple of directors around Atlanta that are in acting classes.
Yeah.
Actually, with the coach that I go to when I'm going to class.
Well, what is an
Kind of a
acting
crazy
class
schedule,
even like? Because I've known of many people that have gone to acting class. What does that look like? How do they teach you how to act?
Yeah, a lot of it's mainly what I study is something called the Meisner Technique, and a lot of it just deals with being present and being honest and listening, being aware, taking in the person that you're with. Right? If Jesse says a line, if he's acting and he's doing his job, he says something, but it's not just the words. He has a subtext about him, and that should mean something to me. So this is, instead of like an acting class where you're like constantly just like doing scene studies, where we do some of that stuff as well. A lot of it is about, it's almost like if you're a football player going into the gym and hitting the weights.
Yeah.
It's more of like a workout that keeps you ready for game day kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I've always just wondered, like, are they saying? My mind's thinking.
Dude,
like,
acting, Meisner's super weird. If you go into a Meisner class, you're gonna be like, "What are these cats doing?" Man?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's helpful, right? And it's actually a very enriching thing, just like for the human soul, I think, because a lot of it is just like really being present with somebody, and listening and seeing them, and
that's just good for life,
dude. It is
general.
good for life.
Yeah.
After you get over, like, because what you do is something called repetition to start out with, where you sit there in front of somebody, and I just noticed something about you, like, man, you're listening well, and then you would repeat it after me. You would say,
I listen well.
You're listening well.
Oh, you listen well. I said you are, so it's just. Yeah. I kind of,
I'm failing the class already.
Going off on a rabbit trail here a little bit, but it's like, the specificity of what you said and what I said, and really listening to each other, and where it takes it. And then next thing you know, you're not worried. It's not about the repetition. It's about being present and actually connecting with each other.
Oh, I bet it does get weird.
It takes you to crazy places. Oh yeah, dude. I mean, initially it's super weird.
You walk in, you're like, what are these people all on acid?
Dude, the weirdest thing is initially like sitting in front of somebody like closer than this, just staring in some other man's eyes.
Especially somebody you probably just met.
Dude, it's super weird.
Yeah,
it's super weird. And then just saying things, repeating the same word back and forth for like minutes. And it's like, this is psycho. But eventually when you realize it's not about repeating, but about being present. Yeah. And a little change in you and something I said. Like maybe I would notice something about you, like your beard's patchy.
It sure is. He just can't grow one.
My beard is patchy.
Your beard is patchy.
It's
you're embarrassed.
Yeah,
he's doing
I'm
good.
working on it, dude.
You're working on it. No, but you're embarrassed. Really you know, so you.
I like it. Y'all keep going. This is awesome. Don't do it to me.
For 30 minutes.
Don't do it to me. But
to you. Maybe right now it's funny, but maybe eventually.
Tonight I'm going to be questioning my life and whether it needs to end or not.
Don't do that.
He's just crying.
I can see how that could go in really interesting ways.
But let's try that later. We all as humans wear masks, right? We wear masks where everything is fine.
Absolutely.
So maybe your first reaction is you're laughing, but maybe that actually hurts your feelings.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And eventually what you actually feel is going to come out. Yeah, you need that as an actor to actually feel what you feel, and you also need it as an actor to actually know what that person's feeling.
I'd hire you
and call BS on what they're doing.
I'd call you back.
So like, so when we first met, like you were like the first legitimate actor I've worked with. And you've helped shape like the way I talk to actors now, just with your different methods and stuff. Like even like say for the knockover, for instance, like when I'd send you a draft, you'd be like, "That's not what he would say." I'd be like, "Okay, what would he say?" It was like, "Well, how's he feeling?" I was like, "I don't know." Like this way, that way. And you're like, okay, so what would he say? I'm like, dang it, he's right. Like draft 6 or 7 is like completely different, but it makes more sense
with all these questions, man.
for the
Give me the
character.
answers,
Well, no,
bro.
but they're good and they're valuable questions, and it just goes to show like
how good he is, man.
how good you are and how
Thank you.
talented you are, because you don't just.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's good, memorize lines and deliver them well and stuff, but I think what you're really good at is the subtext of it and trying to.
Because Meisner taught him that.
Meisner.
It's amazing. It's
Your beard's
amazing.
patchy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
very
of
kind
course.
of you.
So back on the, so we talked a little bit about like auditioning and stuff, and we did mention a little bit about the Heart of Man. Do you want to talk about that at all? Just like, because I know that
Anything
Hawaii
you want.
and all that stuff. What was the process like for you? Because I'm sure that was probably at the time the biggest project you worked on.
The Heart of Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was funny. So I was in Hawaii doing the gig with I forget what my title was. The director of communications thing for this entertainment franchise startup company. And it was like end of 2014, and I was like, this has been super fun, and I so valued it and cherished it, and it was like super beneficial for me as a human and as a filmmaker just in general. But dude, I got to be an actor. Like this is fun. I'm in Hawaii, but I gotta go where I can be in class, where I can audition, and where I can pursue what I want to do. And it wasn't happening there. There's a decent amount of stuff that shoots on Oahu. There's a less stuff that shoots on the Big Island, but they're not doing a lot of big casting out of there. Oahu has some, but I had like a whole tribe of people I was living on the Big Island with, and I wanted to be around people that I knew and loved and could be a part of their life. So my family lives in Atlanta, and I was like going home, man, going back to the family. I knew that the industry was starting to pick up around here. And
how long were you in Hawaii?
I was there 2011 to 2014, the better part of 3.5 years. I would hop around and stuff like that, but for the most part, I was there for about 3.5 years. And so I went back to Georgia, and a month. And at the time, a friend of mine, he does some location scouting, and he's a director and does some other stuff too. But somebody had come to the island, and they were looking to shoot this film. It's kind of this modern, not a modern day, but it's a retelling of the prodigal son parable from the Bible, told in a way that's gritty and
Epic.
Yeah, it's epic, man. It's not like
but also
like a Sunday school
scale.
short film.
It's like small scale, but epic in the way it was told.
Yeah. Check it out. Heartofmanmovie.com.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and he was like, dude, this film is coming here, and I think you'd be perfect for it. To kind of touch on the idea of like, you got to just hustle and grind, because I didn't have like a demo reel put together. I had some footage, but it wasn't edited. So I'm like, I was on an iPad, like teaching myself how to use iMovie to make my first demo reel.
Rough.
God, dude, it took me forever. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Especially on an iPad where it's like,
The
doesn't
movie's
even have all
already
the
made and you're
functions.
still working on it.
Yeah, dude, it was brutal. So I'm like scrambling to finish this because he was telling me about it. He's like, this is film, but it's going to be like really gritty and like raw. And I'm like, they're like, they need like a lead guy. I'm like, God, I'd love to do that. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. It's a shoot in Hawaii. So I finish it up and I give it to my buddy. He sends it in. I leave Hawaii, and actually I was sitting in a Starbucks in Calhoun, Georgia. North of here,
baby.
God, probably 2 hours from here or something like that. North of Atlanta, about an hour. And I get this call from the casting director. She's like, hey, we want to do a callback with you for The Heart of Man. I'm like, I got a callback for my reel. That's great, And she's like, can you be in Hawaii next week? And I was like,
oh, man.
She's like, we understand you're off island. So if you can't, that's cool, but we'd love to see you.
Did they know that you had been there?
They knew I had been there. They knew that I was off currently. She was like, we get it if you're not on island, and I was like,
Sure, that was a moment.
Yeah, it was. I was like, thank you. And I was also like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I had a feeling, I'm like, I want to be in the room with these guys. I want to show up and I want to be present. I want to do this.
Bust that Meisner out on him.
I want to just Meisner these guys all over their
Your beard is
faces.
patchy.
Yeah, your beard is patchy. I want to make them cry.
You're hired.
I want to make them cry so they want me to make them feel better later. They want to
Exactly.
keep me around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
To
It's
affirm them later.
It's like
So did
once
you go
you're
back?
in a room, it's like you got the job. I'm sure.
Well,
That's probably the hard thing about self tapes and stuff too.
dude, yeah, auditioning's a whole nother thing.
So to finish the story, 'cause
So
I'm
to finish,
genuinely
did another
interested now.
cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Um,
like season 2 coming.
Yeah. So, and I was like, I didn't have a bunch of money at the time to just like be flying randomly to Hawaii whenever
Yeah.
I want to, you know. I was talking to my dad. I'm like, what do you think I should do, man? He's like, you should go, man. You got to go. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And kind of along the lines of like my whole story of getting to the acting school in the first place, like all these miraculous things happened. This was another moment where I was just like, I don't know what to do. And I had like this like reminder in my soul that I believe was God speaking to me, like reminding me that there was this, I had this ticket that I had canceled at some point when I lived in Hawaii. And it was like a ticket that was from Atlanta. I think I changed one of my dates or whatever, so I had to cancel it, buy a new one. So I had this ticket I had to use like by the time I had to be there for the audition.
Oh
so
my
I had a
gosh.
one-way ticket, like
dang.
random, like totally forgot about it. It was like a year and a half earlier I had bought this ticket or something insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I jump on a flight and I get out there. And oddly enough, this was about as soon as I landed back in Georgia, all these doors opened up to get into acting class. And I was actually working with my acting coach, Rick Andosco, who's here in Atlanta. Fantastic human and fantastic acting coach. And he's the one actually that has a couple of directors in his class too. So if you're a director, if you're an actor, check out Rick Andosco. He teaches some at Drama Inc. And some other places too. But I had been working with him at that point for a couple of weeks. And I hadn't been in an acting class for probably 2 years or something like that at that point. So I really think it was that refresher, I think, that kind of like stirred something up inside of me that like helped me be able to really be present in the room. And so I went out there and I got in the room with these guys and, you know, did what they asked me to do. And then they gave me another thing to do and then another thing. And then they had a couple of the other actors that they were looking at and they started bringing them in to work with me. And that's always a good sign. If you're in the room for a while and they bring in other actors to work with you, they want to see how it's going to be in these different situations with these different elements, you know? And it was weird because we both were leaving Oahu later that day or the next day at the same time. So I saw him in the airport. And like, you don't want to be one of those actors. It's like, hey man, did I get the role? Like, do you want me?
Yeah.
What do you think? Any feedback?
Yeah.
You know, so I see these guys sitting there. We're both kind of like, oh, hey, and they're like, we want to keep it chill.
Yeah.
And now I'm super good friends with these guys. And the producer of that film, he and I are working on some stuff together now. And we're like best friends. So now you're like, I know now that like immediately they're like, we want this guy. But the director was kind of like, he's a little too much like all-American guy. And and the producer's like, no, we need this guy. So they actually end up, they didn't want to do like a whitewashed film, right? They wanted to feel kind of timeless and interethnic and all this stuff. So it was a problem that I'm like blonde hair, blue eyed guy that looks like, you know, I was the captain of the football team or something like that, which I wasn't. But, and they had already cast a father that was this Polynesian guy. And they were just looking for, so they're like, we'd have to recast, which delays production. And by the grace of God, they ended up delaying production, recast the father because they wanted me to do the job.
Wow.
It's intense.
It was super redemptive too, because I had spent years in Hawaii struggling to get by and living off a credit card, reasoning to myself, this is better than any film school I would be in right now. So I'm just going to grit my teeth and just do it. Rack up 10 grand. When I leave the island, I'm going to work my butt off,
Figure it out
for 6 months and just pay it off. And it'll all be worth it in the end. And by God, it was worth it in the end.
Yeah.
And so it was fun to
amazing.
get this gig in Hawaii. And all of a sudden they're flying me out. I'm staying at the Hilton and all this stuff. It was a very redemptive thing. And I've been working behind the camera with all these people, this whole community of filmmakers in Hawaii for a couple of years behind the camera, right? Whether it's producing, PA, whatever, it just wasn't in front of the camera. And then to go back and to be in the position that it was like that I loved, you know, to be the lead actor and all these friends were all working on this film with
Oh
me.
man, so they're like, Justin made it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was that.
Full
It was
circle.
that, but it was cool. Like we were all working together, right? Like we have been grinding, like trying to launch projects for years.
Yeah.
Which Matt, I'm sure, will love to tell you more about. We had all been grinding for like trying to get these things off the ground for years, and now something happened, and we're all working together. Everybody's getting paid, like loving it. Like it was this serendipitous, beautiful, fantastic gift from heaven, man. It was so much fun.
It's amazing.
And the impact has been incredible. We just released in France like a month or two ago, and I think we're in over 30 countries now, and
Well, it was in theaters like first, and then they
Theaters.
re-released it, right?
Yeah.
They did another release.
yeah,
or-
it was a weird limited thing, like a Fathom event,
Yeah.
which is what happens sometimes. We were on a total of I think like 800 screens over 2 nights here, and then in 2017, end of 2017, and then we started launching in other countries early 2018, and then it just kind of has kept rolling out from there.
Yeah, that was crazy. I grabbed like 20 of my friends. We went to, I don't remember which theater it was, but once
Yeah, down in Newton.
right when first time you're on screen, we were like, JT, we're all like
Come
chanting,
on.
all the other people probably pissed off and stuff.
like,
We're
what is
"This
these people's
awesome.
problem?"
It's great.
Shut up, guys. We don't know what's going on. And you're like, don't worry about it. He's not saying anything.
Yeah, it was a cool experience to see you like in this movie and like in the theaters, and it was a really cool moment just to see that, because
man.
when I first met you, it was the film had already been shot and stuff, and it was like
Yeah, I think there was just a trailer
years.
out at that point.
Yeah, and then
When
it was
was that?
called
That was
it was
20
called Heart of Men when I met you, and then it switched to The Heart of Man.
Yeah, Hearts of Men.
Hearts of Men, that's
Yeah.
right.
Just out of curiosity, how did you guys even meet?
I saw this kid at the mall. He asked me for an autograph.
You're like your bad.
He was like, I saw you. Yeah.
Well,
I was like, dude, that's a sick homeless guy beard. I love it.
I'm sure from his end it was weird, but on my end, so the day before I actually reached out to Jason, it was what would be the word for it? Not manager, or was
Jason,
it,
my manager.
He was your manager at the
Yeah.
time. But the day before, I was on Facebook, and a friend of a friend posted that first trailer for Hearts of Men.
Yeah.
And I watched it, it's a faith-based documentary narrative thing. I was like, wow, that was done really well. And I saw you in it. There's a scene where you're like running, like on this mountain, whatever.
Man, Peck's just Baywatch.
Just, yeah. And at the time we were doing we did the first Spider-Man episode thing. And the script we were working on for the series had the Kraven character in it. I remember seeing you and I was like, he could be a great Kraven, because they had your beard dyed and your hair dyed a different color, like that darker color. And it was just like, I'm pretty sure I was wearing the Kraven the Hunter shirt I was wearing. I like looked down and I looked back at it.
Wow.
But so yeah, I
be.
saw that, and it was funny because that same day, is it your nephew or cousin?
My cousin.
Your
Like second cousin or something.
Yeah, commented on the first Spider-Man video we did, the one that like blew up crazy, and he was like, you should reach out to my cousin Justin. He's an actor. I think he's in your area. Blah blah. He put your name and stuff, and so like I typed in your name and I found your website, and I was like,
This cat looks familiar.
this is a guy of the trailer I just watched. And because like when I first watched it, I was like, there's no way. Like it would be cool to have that guy, but he's probably in LA somewhere, doing all these other things. And we're just ragtag group of kids making a Spider-Man fan series. And I said, well, hell, I'll give it a shot. I emailed you, and then you emailed me saying something like, yeah, sounds cool. My manager will reach out to you and stuff. And Jason did. He watched the short, and we talked for a good while, and he kind of asked like what you would be doing. And then I don't really know what he said to you, but you ended up coming
He
on the
said,
project.
this kid's bogus, run away.
Run away. You're like, well.
No, I'm just kidding. No, we were I was super impressed with the quality of what you did. I'm like, you were probably 21 at the time.
Yeah, I think 20 or 21.
I'm like, here's this kid who did all this by himself.
Yeah.
And I felt like, right, I mean, you were working with friends that weren't actors, but you pulled it off somehow for the most part. Fancy editing, quick cuts and all this stuff. But I was like, there were many moments when I felt like I was watching a film. I'm like, this kid did all this by himself. And I was like, dang, he's got at that point like 6 million views. And I'm like, this is totally worth looking at. And then And now
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Now me and him are best friends.
I think we met at a
Not
Waffle
you.
House.
Not me. I'm
You're
out.
not best friends with him.
not yet.
I'm out.
I'm best friends
I
with
got
him.
you. No, I don't want to claim to be best friends.
But you
I'm
can
just
be
kidding.
best friends with us if you want.
Oh, I can join the group.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Matt can join too.
I want in.
But yeah, it was a crazy like serendipitous way of meeting. It was
yeah,
pretty
it's
cool.
so cool, man.
It
To
was pretty
see,
cool.
I wrote some stuff on Instagram. I think, I don't know, maybe around New Year or something like that. It was just like this reflection of like some of the coolest things that have happened in my life have been things that I haven't contrived on my own. You know, whether it's, you know, that opportunity, that film, that whatever these different things are, you know, those people you meet in life. It was like those things that like are really true to the core of who you are, that really means so much to you in your life. I'm like, man, I couldn't have planned that or like figured that out on my own. Somehow it was just this gift that was laid in my lap.
It definitely seems like you have favor.
Favorite, man. That's yeah. And sometimes I want more, and then you know, then when these miraculous things happen, I'm like just super thankful, and I you know, like anybody needs to, is just kind of chill out sometimes.
Yeah,
and just kind of it's hard, especially when I was actually writing in that Instagram post like one of my favorite pastimes is winning. Like I remember like when I first met Jason, he's like, "What are you into?" And I was thinking, I'm like, "What do I like doing?" And it clicked. I'm like, the one thing I like doing is winning. Whatever I'm doing, I just want to win. I want to crush.
All I
I
do is
love
win,
crushing,
win.
you know? So it's hard when that's like your personality is like push, right? Like perseverance, and like I will knock down walls. But sometimes it's like that's not the right wall to knock down, or that wall's not going to move.
literally
at the end
and
yeah.
in
Construction.
Yeah, exactly. I try to get the 20-year-old kids to do that now because now I'm 27.
yeah, obviously.
You know?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, sometimes it doesn't work,
Yeah.
you know? So there's this element of like, you kind of going back to your first question is like, what do you do in those lulls? And you got to find other things that make you feel excited and alive. Because at the end of the day, if you're not excited and alive, that garbage is going to come through in your performance, and you're not going to make creative decisions because
Absolutely.
you're closed off, and you're not going to explore. You know, you're not going to come across as the unique self that you need to be. So we have to, as creatives, find ways to pursue what we're doing, but also be happy while we're in the grind and the hustle.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's producing. Maybe, dude, I'm just redesigning my website. Like for me, that's a creative thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just kind of like back to my demo reel, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's taking me 17 times longer than it would somebody else, you know, but I get to create and I enjoy that. So I
Yeah.
do that every night. I'm just like redesigning a website. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting for access to story rights on a film I'm producing with some other people, and I'm waiting for that next film or TV role to come through. You got to find stuff that makes you feel alive.
I think
great.
I think creatives forget that we are creative because of our experiences. If you're constantly creating, you're gonna miss all the things that make you creative and stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, where can like people find you and, you know, check
And
out?
what would you like to leave people with as well?
Yeah.
I would like to leave you with those words of wisdom.
Sensei.
Please do it in that voice.
Sensei.
Master.
One thing you must know about life. It is
That's your
not
camera,
always
by the
fun,
way, if you want to look into
but
it.
it is good. Sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah. No. Well, I asked,
I
like,
started getting caught up in the character. I didn't know where that was going to go.
Yeah. No.
Like, where can people, you know, see the film you were in?
Like find your information if they want to reach out to you to
Website, jtorrence.com.
JT, baby.
IMDb. Check out IMDb. Obviously, it's that's great because the more people look at it, then the higher ranked you are, and it actually can make a difference if you have a higher IMDb rating and you're like being considered between like you and one other guy.
so they
for
can
a
just
role.
type your name into IMDb and
And then
Justin
click
Torrence.
refresh over and over.
yeah. So guys keep
Searching.
checking that out.
Everyone watching.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
and-
if you have a family with a lot of kids, put the kids to work
iPads.
before you
iPhones.
eat dinner.
Exactly.
You're doing this
exactly.
every night.
Yeah. Start a little work mill.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram?
Instagram, Justin Torrence Official. You can just search Justin Torrence as well. And Instagram, Facebook, and Smoke Signals. I'll
Sweet.
reply to just about anything.
Anything. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna hit me up on Facebook, I rarely check my Facebook messages, so Instagram's definitely better for that.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
Instagram
and I think my
DM.
email isn't even set up on my website yet because I'm still building it. So
Well,
Instagram,
It will be soon.
it will be soon.
Anyways,
soon.
well, man, thanks again so much. And
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
great.
it was
Now,
fun.
I told this to the last guy I was interviewed by, Sean Bowles. I was like, I do a lot of these type things, and I'm like, I always feel so weird just talking for like the whole time. So next time I'm going to interview you guys.
Sounds
You got to have
good.
me back.
Absolutely.
Next time I'm interviewing, and you guys are talking for 30 minutes nonstop.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
yeah, it
Deal.
does.
I feel like I talked a good bit.
Yeah, you get
Sometimes I feel like I need to just shut up. Jesse always tells me I talk too much.
No, I didn't
On
say talk
interviews?
too much. There was like the first couple episodes. The reason why I brought it up is because right before the first episode, he was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I think I'm going to be a goober on camera, blah, blah, blah.
Well, like,
We start
am a goober.
rolling. He talked the whole time. I was like, man, you talk too much.
Yeah,
But,
so
it works out. We fill in the
No,
gaps
it's
and
good,
stuff.
man. People that are being interviewed at the end of the day, if they have some type of balance in their persona, they should feel weird about just talking the whole time. So
yeah, I hear you. It
we
can
can
be
have
awkward.
a little more conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, thanks so much.
fun.
And guys,
Thanks for
go and
watching.
check this man out and call him.
Call me.
DM him.
DM him.
DM me.
Hit those
IMDb
messages
him.
up.
All right.
Yeah, refresh.
All right,
Refresh,
thanks.
refresh.
We'll see you
Peace.
next week.
Thanks, guys.